The last photo I have of my father and me together sits on my desk at Martinez Construction. It was taken 3 years ago, just weeks before his heart attack. We're both wearing hard hats, standing in front of our biggest project yet, the Martinez Tower downtown. Dad's smiling proudly, his arm around my shoulders. He built this company from nothing, and I was supposed to help carry on his legacy. At least that's what I thought. Michael. My sister Elena's voice cut through my memories like a knife. I need you in the conference room. Now. I looked up from the project proposals I'd been reviewing. Elena stood in my office doorway, immaculate in her designer suit, not a strand of her dark hair out of place. Behind her stood Tom Wilson, our HR director, looking uncomfortable. Something in their expressions made my stomach drop. Can it wait? I asked, gesturing to the papers spread across my desk. I'm finalizing the bid for the Riverside development. No, Elena said coldly. It can't. The walk to the conference room felt like a march to execution. Every employee we passed quickly looked away, some hurrying in the opposite direction. They knew something I didn't. The conference room, Dad's old conference room, had changed since Elena took over as CEO 6 months ago. Gone were the construction site photos Dad had loved, replaced by modern art and motivational posters. Elena took her seat at the head of the table, Dad's old chair, while Tom sat beside her. Sit, she commanded, pointing to the chair across from them. I remained standing. What's this about, Elena? She slid a folder across the table. Your termination papers. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? You're being terminated from Martinez Construction, effective immediately. Her voice was calm, practiced. She'd been planning this. Tom will oversee your departure process. You can't fire me. I'm part honor. Actually, she cut in, you're not. Dad left controlling interest to me, remember? You're just an employee who's been undermining my authority since day one. I stared at my sister, the stranger wearing Prada and ice. Where was the Elena who used to help me build sandcastles? Who cried when I went off to college? Who hugged me at Dad's funeral? Undermining your authority? I repeated. By what? Doing my job. Managing projects like Dad taught me. By going behind my back to the board. She slammed her hand on the table. Did you think I wouldn't find out about your little presentation? Trying to convince them my modernization plans are too aggressive. Ah, so that's what this was about. The board asked for my professional opinion. I said quietly, and I gave it. Your plan to sell off our equipment division and outsource labor will destroy everything Dad built. Dad's methods are outdated. This company needs to evolve. This company needs to remember what it stands for. I leaned forward, placing my hands on the table. Dad believed in quality work, fair wages, and treating our employees like family. Dad is dead. Elena's voice cracked slightly. She took a breath, composing herself. And he left me in charge. Not you. The golden boy who always had his ear, who he took to every job site, She trailed off, but I heard the unspoken words. Who he loved more. Elena, I tried again, softening my voice. This isn't about Dad's favoritism. This is about. Sign the papers, she interrupted, or I'll have security escort you out. Tom shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps we should take a moment to. No. Elena's tone left no room for discussion. He has 1 hour to clean out his office. After that, he's trespassing. I looked at the termination papers, then at my sister. In her face, I saw years of resentment, of feeling second best, of trying to prove herself. But I also saw something else. Fear. She was afraid of something. Fine, I said, picking up the pen. I'll sign. Relief flickered across her face. Good, Tom will. On one condition. I met her eyes. I want an hour alone in Dad's old office. No supervision, no security cameras. One last time. She frowned. Why? To say goodbye properly. You can have someone search me before I leave if you're worried I'll steal something. Elena studied me for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. 1 hour. Starting now. Dad's office, Elena's office now, was on the top floor of our headquarters. It still smelled faintly of his aftershave, though she tried to cover it with some designer room fragrance. The old leather couch where I used to nap as a kid was gone, replaced by a sleek modern settee. His collection of hard hats from various projects had vanished from the shelves, but the painting was still there. It was a simple landscape, Rolling hills, a construction site in the distance, a sunset sky. Dad had bought it at a street fair 20 years ago, saying something about it capturing the beauty of building. Elena had kept it, probably because it matched her new color scheme. Only Dad and I knew about the safe behind it. I waited 5 minutes in case Elena was watching through the security cameras she claimed would be off. Then I carefully lifted the painting from its hooks. The wall safe looked exactly as I remembered, old-fashioned with a combination dial. Dad had shown it to me a month before his death. "Remember these numbers, son," he'd said, turning the dial. 7 to 2483. Elena's birthday. Because no matter what happens, she's still your sister. The irony wasn't lost on me. The safe clicked open softly. Inside wasn't the cash or valuables Elena might have expected. Instead, there was a single USB drive and a letter addressed to me in Dad's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. "Dear Michael, if you're reading this, then what I feared has happened. Elena has made her move against you. I know my daughter, her ambition, her pain, and her secrets. What's on this drive will change everything. But before you use it, remember, she's your sister. Whatever you decide to do with this information, do it with mercy. I'm sorry I'm not there to fix this myself. Know that I'm proud of you, son, not just for what you build, but for who you are. Love, Dad." I plugged the USB drive into Elena's computer, my heart pounding. As files began loading on the screen, my breath caught. Emails, bank transfers, secret meetings. "Oh, Elena," I whispered. "What have you done?" I spent the next 40 minutes reading, copying, documenting. When security arrived to escort me out, I was ready. The USB drive was secure in my pocket, its contents backed up to my private cloud. Elena watched from her office doorway as I carried my box of belongings to the elevator. "I hope you understand," she called out. "It's just business." I stepped into the elevator, turned to face her. "See you Monday, sis." Her perfectly maintained eyebrows drew together. "What? Oh, didn't I mention?" I smiled slightly as the doors began to close. "I'm having breakfast with the board of directors on Monday. I think you'll find my presentation very interesting." The last thing I saw was Elena's face draining of color as she finally realized I found the safe. Dad's last gift to me wasn't the USB drive or even the evidence it contained. It was a choice between revenge and redemption, between destroying my sister and saving her from herself. As I drove home that evening, watching the sunset paint the sky the same colors as Dad's old painting, I thought about his words. Do it with mercy. Monday would change everything. The question was, how would I use that change? Part 2. Legacy of Truth. I spent the weekend in my home office, poring over the contents of Dad's USB drive. With each file, each email, each hidden document, the picture became clearer and darker. Elena hadn't just been planning to modernize Martinez construction. She'd been systematically dismantling everything our father had built, piece by piece. The equipment division she wanted to sell off. She'd already signed a preliminary agreement with Global Tech Industries at a fraction of its worth. The outsourcing plan, a scheme to fire our longtime employees and replace them with cheaper labor through a company she secretly owned. But that wasn't the worst of it. "Jesus, Elena," I muttered, staring at my screen late Sunday night. "What were you thinking?" There in black and white were emails proving she'd been artificially inflating project costs, pocketing the difference through a network of shell companies. She'd been stealing from our own company, from our father's legacy, for months before his death. My phone buzzed, Elena's third attempt to call me that day. I let it go to voicemail. Instead, I opened the last file on the drive, a video. Dad's face filled my screen, recorded in his office just weeks before his death. "Michael," he began, looking tired but resolute. "If you're watching this, then you've discovered what Elena's been doing. I found out about the embezzlement 2 months ago. When I confronted her," he paused, rubbing his face. "She blamed me, said I'd always favored you, always made her feel second best. That she had to prove herself. Son, maybe she was right. Maybe I did favor you, not because I loved her less, but because you reminded me so much of myself at your age." Tears stung my eyes as I watched my father's confession. I planned to handle this quietly, get her help, find a way to make it right. But if you're seeing this, I didn't get the chance. The choice of what to do now falls to you. The video ended. I sat back, memories flooding in. Elena at 5 following me around construction sites with her toy hard hat. At 12, winning the math competition she'd studied months for. At 18, choosing business school instead of engineering, trying to forge her own path. My sister. My responsibility now. Monday morning arrived clear and cold. I parked my truck in the Martinez construction lot one last time, noting Elena's Porsche already in its reserved spot. She'd been here early, probably trying to figure out what I found, what I planned to do. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. I arrived at 8:30, finding Elena pacing outside the conference room. "Michael," she called out, her composure cracking slightly. "We need to talk." Yes, I agreed. We do. Her office still smelled of Dad's aftershave and her designer fragrance, an odd combination that seemed to fit the moment. She closed the door behind us. "Whatever you think you found," she began, "whatever you're planning to tell the board. Sit down, Elena." To my surprise, she did. For a moment, I saw past the power suit and perfect makeup to the little girl who used to build sandcastles with me. I connected my laptop to her office TV, started playing the files. Emails appeared. Bank statements. The video of Dad. Elena's face went from pale to ashen as she watched our father's last message. When it ended, she sat in silence for a long moment. "I never meant," she whispered finally. "It started small. Just a little extra padding on the bids. Then the shell companies seemed so easy. Nobody was getting hurt. Nobody getting hurt." I pulled up the employee list she'd marked for termination. "These people have families, Elena. Mortgages. Kids in college. Dad treated them like family because they are family." "You don't understand." She stood up, anger and fear warring in her voice. "Do you know what it's like living in your shadow? Perfect Michael, Dad's chosen one. I had to prove I could do more, be more. By stealing, by destroying what he built, by making it better, more efficient, more profitable, more soulless, I cut in. This company isn't just about profits, Elena. It's about building things that last. It's about trust." She sank back into her chair. "So that's it? You'll show this to the board, have me arrested, take everything." I looked at my watch, 8:55 a.m. The board would be gathering now. "No," I said quietly. Her head snapped up. "What?" I pulled out a thick folder, not the evidence from the USB drive, but something else I'd spent the weekend preparing. "This is a new company structure," I explained, sliding it across the desk. "You and I as equal partners. A new board of directors that includes some of our longest-serving employees, profit sharing for the workers, and a mandatory ethics oversight committee." She stared at the folder. "I don't understand." "It's called mercy, Elena. Dad's last lesson to both of us." I leaned forward. "You'll step down as CEO, take a position as Chief Strategy Officer instead. I'll handle operations. Together, we'll build something better than either of us could alone. And if I refuse..." I gestured to my laptop where Dad's video was frozen on his tired face. "Then I'll show the board everything. But I don't think you will refuse, because despite everything, you're still a builder at heart. And builders don't destroy, they create." Tears slipped down her cheeks, smearing her perfect makeup. "I never wanted to hurt anyone. I just wanted to prove yourself. I know." I stood up, walked around the desk, and did something I hadn't done in years. I hugged my sister. "So prove yourself now. Help me make this right." She clung to me for a moment, then straightened up, wiping her eyes. "The board's waiting." "Yes, they are. Ready to build something new." The board meeting that morning wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of exposures and accusations, they heard our joint vision for Martinez Construction's future. Elena, her voice steady despite her red eyes, presented the new ethics policies she would oversee. I outlined our plans for sustainable growth that maintained our father's values. One by one, the board members nodded their approval. They'd known our father, understood what he built went beyond balance sheets and profit margins. Afterward, as employees gathered for the announcement of the new structure, I caught Elena looking at Dad's old painting. "I wanted to take it down," she admitted. "It reminded me too much of him. A feeling like I was never enough." I touched the frame gently. "Maybe we keep it up. As a reminder." "Of what?" "That the most important things are often hidden from view. Like safes behind paintings, or love behind high expectations." She managed a small smile. When did you get so wise? I had a good teacher, two of them, actually. Over the next year, Martinez Construction transformed. Not into the soulless corporation Elena had envisioned or the unchanged monument to the past I'd wanted to preserve, but something new, something better. The equipment division modernized but stayed in-house. Employees got profit sharing and seats on the board. Elena's financial skills, once used for deception, now drove legitimate growth and innovation. Dad's painting still hangs in what is now our shared office. Sometimes late at night when I'm working late, I swear I can smell his aftershave, feel his presence. You did good, son, I imagine him saying. Both of you did good. The safe behind the painting is empty now. We don't need it anymore. The real treasures, trust, forgiveness, family, aren't things you can lock away. Elena and I still disagree sometimes. She pushes for faster growth. I argue for caution. But now we talk, really talk, about the fears and hurts behind our positions. We're learning to be siblings again, partners in preserving and growing our father's legacy. Last week, we broke ground on a new project, affordable housing for veterans. Elena's idea, backed by my construction expertise. As we stood there in our hard hats, I caught her smiling at the workers, greeting them by name, asking about their families. "What?" she demanded, catching my grin. "Nothing," I said, "just thinking Dad would be proud." She was quiet for a moment, watching the sunrise paint the sky the same colors as his old painting. "Of both of us," she said finally. "Yeah," I agreed. "Of both of us." The last photo I have of my father still sits on my desk, but next to it now is a new one. Elena and me at the Veterans Housing groundbreaking, both in hard hats, both smiling. Building something new. Together. Sometimes the greatest buildings aren't made of steel and concrete. Sometimes they're built with forgiveness, understanding, and second chances. Dad taught us how to build structures that would stand the test of time. But his last lesson, hidden in that old safe, taught us how to build something even more lasting, a bridge back to each other.